taking names and kicking butts. This is Headkicks and Haymakers. Good morning, fight fans. Welcome to another great episode of Head Kicks and Haymakers. Wow, UFC 279. It wasn't the card that we thought it was going to be. All the crazy changes that happened on Thursday and Friday. If you missed any of that stuff, please check out our post show that we did yesterday, because we covered the wildest 24 hours in UFC MMA history for sure. That went down yesterday morning. But then last night, of course, it went down. UFC 279. The boys are back with me. My main man, Craig with a K, always joining me. And Mr. Smoking Amigo, Kenneth Miller, back again, boys. Wow, UFC 279. I mean, I don't really know how I feel about it because all the craziness that happened beforehand. The fights, pretty darn good. Let's get into it. I mean, the gods, I realized last night, Kenny mentioned the gods should have to come after Khamzat Chimaev. You know what the gods did? They looked out for the true gangster in the game, Nate Diaz, all week. They said, Nate, the devil Dana is trying to screw you over. We're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let it happen, Nate. We're going to shine down on the truest gangster in this game. And they're the ones that messed up the card. They're the ones that gave Chimaev so-called cramps, or sent that doctor at 4 a.m. a couple hours right before he's supposed to weigh in. It doesn't matter, though. And then we're going to give you Tony Furgeson. We're going to give the fans what they want. The fight gods shine down, parted the skies, shine down on us, and they gave Nate Diaz a show. Tony gave us a show, looked at parts like old school Tony, not old Tony. But in the end, it was Nate Diaz's night. Taps out Tony in the fourth round. What an incredible scene. Nate got emotional at the end. I mean, how talking about leaving the UFC, has a love-hate relationship, which I think nothing new. Talked about going other places. Kenny, initial thoughts on the true gangster last night, Nate Diaz and Tony Furgeson.
It was good to see Tony kind of look at least some shades of his old self. We kind of talked on the pre-show. We didn't really know what he was going to look like at 170. Craig brings up every time somebody moves weight classes, he always gets a little bit worried about him, and I was kind of worried about Tony in the same way. It was good to kind of see him look like shades of his old self, but I'm glad that everything kind of went the way it did. I'm glad that Nate went out with the win. Like we kind of said yesterday, drag his ass out in deep water and then get the finish, and that's exactly what happened. We kind of seen that one coming, not necessarily as a knock to Tony. We know who Nate is. Like we said, everybody Nate fights is a fight for a title, and that says something when you're an unranked guy for the last 17 and a half years, whatever it's been that he's been fighting in the UFC. But definitely, man, happy for Nate. Glad he got to go out and give Dana the double birds on the way out. Anytime you can do that, the way kind of, like you said, the UFC tried to punk him on this card. Anytime you can give him the birds on the way out, you're doing all right.
Yeah, Craig, I mean, I thought Tony was going to win there in the third. He was chopping that tree down, hurt Nate, and I thought he got kind of caught into the Diaz mind games. Diaz walked around shaking his head. I was like, man, he going to quit in the middle of the fight. Just say, you know what, Dana? Screw your championship rounds. But, Tony got caught there in that Diaz games. What was your kind of thoughts there?
Yeah, man, I almost texted in the group, like, because we're in the fourth round, and has the fight even started yet? Because Diaz's face wasn't bleeding. Tony was just chopping him down at the legs, man, and that was something you don't really see people do to Nate. So it's kind of interesting to see how long, he was going to make it through it. But yeah, I mean, Nate being Nate in there, playing games, getting in your head, almost making you feel like all the work you're doing is just not getting to him, and I feel like that sometimes is something that Nate does that kind of demoralizes the opponent a little bit in those late rounds. But it was good to see Tony, man, look good. if it was against anybody but Nate, I'd have been behind Tony, man. Like, he came out looking good, came out looking fresh and ready. Didn't look like the the meme kind of stuck with him there. I felt like Tony looked good, but I was glad Nate won, man. I mean, that's the ending that we wanted to see. I feel like we didn't want to see him in there getting pounded up by Chimaev, and going out like that. You know, seeing Nate win by submission was just, it was something kind of old school, man. It's something that we've seen plenty of times before, and I felt like it was a good way for Nate to go out. So I was happy with it. At the end of the day, this is an entertainment game, man, and I feel like Dana pulled it off, and we had a pretty entertaining card.
Kitty, this had kind of shades to me of Nick Diaz versus Silva, especially in that third round where Nate's shaking his head, he's leaning up against the fence. How can why don't people just bum rush Nate when he's doing these things? Are they just getting caught up into these games that the Diaz boys love to play?
Ask Leon Edwards why you don't bum rush a Diaz boy whenever they're playing games with you. That's exactly what it is. I mean, Nate did the same thing to Leon. He turned his back on him a bunch of times. He acted like he was only halfway in the fight, acted like he didn't want to be there. And then he turned it on and about knocked him out. I mean, you know what you're getting out of the Diaz boys. You know you're going to get some antics. You know you're going to get some gimmicks in there. They're going to do some stuff to get the crowd riled up. They're going to do some stuff to piss the crowd off. But if you get close enough, they're also going to try to put one on your chin. So I do think if you bum rush him, I mean, Nate's got long-ass arms. You're going to take one. You know, and he showed Connor. He showed Leon. He's got power in them hands still. You know, and I think you guys brought up did the fight start yet because Nate wasn't bleeding. I think Nate kind of knew this eye. How many shots does it have before it's bleeding all over the place and the doctor stops it again? So you kind of got to wait before you get in there and really try to go for the finish if you're Nate, just to make sure that you don't end up getting stopped by the damn doctor again.
Yeah, I think Tony forgot how good a wrestler Nate is. I mean, you know, Craig, you kind of alluded to it in this, you know, if Hamzat was going to face Nate, Nate could get you in, in any position and to get you tapped out. And I think Tony forgot about that because the first shoot of the fight was in that fourth round and Tony got him. I mean, Nate got him right in the guillotine.
Yeah,
I mean, how was that playing out? I mean, you know, Nate,
that's
people
that's
forget Nate. Is that great?
That's one of the reasons you can't bum rush these Diaz boys, man, because I mean they'll stand and bang with you like some street fighters, but if you get in too close and get in a grapple with them, they're some of the best jiu-jitsu guys of their times. Really more underrated, because everybody thinks of the Diaz boys just being bangers,
Well, it's because they're both dogs. I mean, that's exactly what it is. All they want to do is bait you into thinking that you can take them out. They're not. Watch them fight. Not early, not early Nick and Nate, but late Nick and Nate. They're not the best technical fighters in the world. They're just dudes that are going to go out there and you cannot finish them. I mean, unless Nick quits in between rounds, those things are going to happen. But you can't finish a Diaz, brother, and that's why whenever they can drag you into a dogfight like that, if he picked Tony apart until Tony had to go for the shot, and as soon as he did, he got choked out. And I think that when you see, kind of like we just said, a little bit ago with the turning the backs and the antics, all they try to do is bait you into thinking, I have to take this dude out. I'm not going to let him do this stuff to me in front of people. Then you get close enough and you either get knocked out or took out.
Yeah, I thought Nate kind of really turned it on after Tony hurt him, in the midst of those antics because
That's usually how it goes, right?
yeah, because I mean, I thought Nate was legitimate hurt. Those leg shots, he was chopping that tree down. Craig, I was worried for Nate, especially in the late rounds, how much left he had in those legs, but it seemed to like he could shake it out. But I mean, a few more, your body's just gonna go. We've seen it in a lot of fights.
Right. At some point, I mean the will, all the will you have in your heart and all the will you have in your brain, your leg, I mean, doesn't keep it forever, So at some point, you got to think that was going to take its toll on Nate. But credit to Nate, man, because Tony's not an easy guy to submit. We've seen Tony in some pretty bad spots, and he always kind of has gotten out of a lot of them. Tony's been a guy you kind of got to hit on the chin. So again, that just kind of shows you how good Nate is down on the ground.
Yeah, both guys took some shots. I mean, Tony looked like he was wearing the brunt of it, both eyes. I mean, we can go ahead and let's get into kind of what's next for both of these. Tony, you kind of hoped, I was hoping maybe Tony would lay the gloves down in the middle of the octagon, go out on a high note. You battled with Nate Diaz, but that's 5 straight losses for Tony. But let's not look at it. I mean, it's 5 straight losses, but hey, if you fought the 5 guys that Tony Furgeson has fought, all the way back from Gaethje to Charles Oliveira to Beneil Dariush to I'm missing the last guy he Michael Chandler, and now Nate Diaz. I mean, how many guys are going to have a winning record in that 5 stretch here? So I mean, you got to give Tony a little credit, but at the same time, I was kind of hoping he'd put the gloves down and call it a career. What's your kind of boys' thoughts? We'll start with Tony here first, and then we'll circle back to Nate. Kenny, what's your thoughts on Tony?
I mean, nobody wants to go out on a loss. You kind of heard the way he was talking this week. He doesn't necessarily think he's done. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what we think. It kind of just depends on what he thinks, whether he wants to get back in the gym and try to get out there and get another fight. You got to think he's going to win a retirement fight that he can win, especially considering, I mean, essentially he really did Nate a favor in this one. He did Dana a big favor by making sure the card stayed good, by giving Nate a good retirement fight. I think Tony kind of deserves that as well. When he won the interim belt, man, he was really in a prime position, not necessarily to beat Khabib, but to compete with Khabib. And he never really got that opportunity. And I think just kind of the way things have went since then, we talked on the pre-show, he was never really able to let that go. But when you fight a who's who after that, I mean, if you come out on top of the winning record in that, you might be the GOAT. So I think when you really look at it, I mean, Tony's still got enough left in the tank. He was able to show last night that he does have shades of his old self in there. You got to think he's only got one more, though, right? The next one's got to be the retirement fight. You can't think he's just going to keep going out there. At some point, he's going to be fighting dudes that we've never heard of if you keep taking losses. And that's not good. It's not good for Tony, not good for the UFC, not good for Tony's fans. So give him one more. Let's give him somebody he can – I don't want to say – don't give him a cakewalk. You know, you can't do that. That's disrespectful too. But don't give him a Jim Miller type guy like you gave Cowboy on the way out. That was kind of or like you tried to give Nate Chimaev on the way out. Don't do him like that. But let's get him a fight that he can at least compete and try to go get a W on the way out.
Craig, he was supposed to fight the Leech on this card, his 170 debut. I mean, Craig, do you think maybe run it back with the Leech and give him that fight?
Possibly. To me, I mean, and I said it yesterday in the pre-show, this was the perfect fight. And then even at the end of the fight, man, it just had the feeling like this was the perfect fight for Tony and Nate to just kind of hang it up together. Much respect for both of them, the way the fight played out. It's just a spot now for Tony. Kind of like Kenny said, man, you want to see Tony go out on a high note. You don't want to see him go out against, you know, one of these young and up and coming dudes that might put it on him. But who else do you give Tony at this point? You know, it'd be nice to give him a name, kind of how Nate got a guy like Tony on the way out, the way things unfolded. It'd be nice for Tony to get a situation like that, but there's just really not one out there for him. So, I wouldn't mind seeing him and Leech. I mean, we'll get into the Leech fight here in a little bit and how I got robbed out of bringing the belt back to me. But I mean, I'd like to see Leech get a good fight. And like I said, I feel like Tony showed a little bit of his old self. He came out looking fresh. I was worried if that Michael Chandler. I mean, we see KOs like that. I mean, guys not come back out fighting the same, and Tony looked like that wasn't sticking with him too much. So I mean, I don't think Tony's done the way he's been talking, the way that he looked, but I just don't know what I feel like there's not a perfect scenario out there for Tony. But that fight would be all right for Leech. I think I wouldn't mind seeing it.
Kenny, I mean, it's Tony staying at 170 here, right? Like it's not his 155 days are over.
I mean, who the hell knows? I mean, he doesn't have a problem making 155. He didn't move up because he can't make weight. Yeah. Some of these guys have to move up because they struggle getting down. He has no problem making 155. There wasn't a road to contention for him at 155. He's going to find out there's probably not at 170 either. When you move up and you're going to be one of the smaller guys in the weight class that you're going to be fighting, especially if you're going to demand that you fight a ranked guy, that means you're going to be fighting a bad dude at 170. He's going to find out that there's not really a path to contention there for him either. It's hard to find a fight for him, man. Like, I think if you ran it with him and Leech, I think that might be the best case scenario for Tony. I still think he probably loses that fight. I would have picked him to lose that fight last night. But really, you look at that 10 to 15 range, Rachmanov's going to kill him.
Oh,
Michael Pereira is going to kill him. Michael Chiesa is hurt. Neil Magny probably going to kill him.
I wouldn't mind seeing him and Michael Chiesa, two veterans.
I would love that if get Chiesa healthy. He's had that back injury since last summer, and he ain't fought in over a year. That's honestly the perfect fight for Tony if Chiesa can get in there because he is coming off injuries. He is a little older. That's a fight Tony can go out there and try to win against a name that people at least know. It's just whether or not he can get in there. But besides Chiesa running back with Leach, man, it's impossible to find a fight down there that with a ranked guy that Tony's going to be able to win, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like you said, he didn't. It's not like he struggles making weight because he looked the same to me. It's not like, you know, when Kevin Holland is fighting at 170, you're like, man, he just looks so much taller and stronger than these 170-pound guys are. You know,
Wouldn't you rather see Tony fight a Dan Hooker type than the Leach?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's moving back down to 155. But like, that's the kind of fight that I want to see Tony take on this last one. Don't go fight the Leach, man. The Leach, he's good enough on the ground that you don't really want to go there. He's damn sure good enough standing up. You don't really want to stay there. Like, go fight Dan Hooker and just brawl it out for your last one and go out and put on a fight of the night, get that check, and ride off in the sunset that way. I like that a lot more. I don't know if he wants to go back down to 155, but I do like that a lot more than fighting anybody at 170 for him.
Yeah, and we'll get into the Leach and D-Rod situation too, because I mean D-Rod's a guy that I think him and Tony could put on a decent show, even though D-Rod's not ranked.
Yeah, but D-Rod's 2.5 times his size, man. That's what I mean. Tony don't want that fight. Like, D-Rod's a big 185 or 170, or he don't want that fight.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like Tony looks. I mean, he's just small and skinny. Like,
right, he didn't cut weight to make 170. He just walked in and got on a scale. You know what I mean? Like, that's you're fighting dudes at 170 that are walking in at 190 on fight day, and that's just a whole, especially D-Rod.
So Craig, I mean, we saw Nate Diaz didn't put the gloves down in the ring, but was like, "Yo, I'm out this, you know, for better reasons. I'm gonna show everybody that you can be great in two sports." You know, what sport was he talking about? Was he talking about basket weaving, underwater basket weaving? Nate gonna be the greatest underwater basket weaving, or was he talking about something else? Because I mean, I believe if Nate Diaz puts his mind to it, he's gonna be a true gangster in any sport he does. But what was he talking about here?
Well, I mean, it's Nate Diaz, man. The only thing he could be talking about is fighting. So if he's not fighting UFC, he's fighting somewhere because that's all that guy knows. He's got to be going to make some boxing money, right? I mean, you got to think Jake Paul money's out there. Floyd Mayweather money's out there. There's been talks about Canelo trying to do some big pay-per-views with some of these UFC guys. I mean, so that's what it's got to be. Now, Nate has said before, you know, like this is the end of his contract and he wants out. He's got other shit to do, but he's also said that he'll be back. Him and Conor both have said that trilogy is going to happen at some point down the road. So I think it's just one of those things. You know, Nate's got some money to make, man. There's money to be made out there and he's seeing guys do it. And Nate knows he can stand in there and throw hands with some of these boxers. So, I mean, that's got to be where he's going. And then there's also been talk about Nate doing his own fight promotion with his fight team. But yeah, I mean, I think we'll see Nate in the octagon again, but we're gonna see him go make some boxing money for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny, UFC paid out Nate. He said, "I lost track how much money they gave me in these contract negotiations," but he stayed on, got the money. But like Craig alluded to, I mean, there's a lot of big money fights. Jake Paul, I think, kind of is that big fight, or Floyd. Are you interested in seeing Nate fight either one of those two, or do you got somebody else in mind?
I'm always interested to see Nate Diaz fight. I don't care if he's fighting a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a snowstorm. I'm going to watch him fight that peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a snowstorm. That's just Nate Diaz, an entertaining guy. You got to think Jake Paul's one of the names that are up there. They were kind of talking about that since last summer, that Nate was wanting that fight and Dana wouldn't let it happen. I think Jake kind of wanted that fight. So you got to think that's kind of the one. I threw Floyd's name out in group just because why would you say Conor's name in the octagon if you're not going to go try to do the same thing he did and then show that you're better at it than him? And you got to think that Floyd will take that fight too. He'll take any fight against any. Number one, he's going to win that fight. And number two, he's going to make a lot of money in that fight. So you got to think that Floyd will take that fight too. He's definitely going to be boxing. The only reason I say that is because he said different sport. And he's doing that Real Fight Inc. Fight promotion. But that's not a different sport. So I don't think that that's kind of what he was alluding to. Basket weaving, man, that'd be something. If we can get him on the QLC Home Shopping Network or whatever the hell it's called anymore, selling some baskets, I think we'd kind of be okay with that. Maybe it's competitive cannabis growing. Who knows what it is with Nate?
Hey, you know, I just whipped this basket up, man, and you know, it's dope, man. It's
what happened to that basket? Oh, well, that basket was talking shit, so I slapped that basket around.
You know, I called this the Stockton basket, man. You know, it is what it is. And he'll sell it. Hey, if Nate was selling basket weaving, he would sell 1,000,000 because he'll sell you himself and his product with conviction. And you're like,
Well, I mean, as long as he can get through a sentence about what the product is with actually using English words, I think we might be able to sell some stuff
and
here.
you're just like,
Listen,
hey, I don't,
Diaz Army baskets.
yeah,
There's going to be a lot of them sold.
hey, I don't know what he just said, but I believe that, man. That's exactly how it
Humming,
goes.
humming, baskets. I'll take one.
Yeah.
Sold.
Yeah, hey, this could be the worst basket ever, but you be like, hey, that guy, I believe him. You see him
Does this
out
basket hold water? No. Does this basket hold plants? No. Does this basket hold candy? No. What's it good for? Nate Diaz made it. I'll take one.
there. Yeah, and Nate will sell it to you with conviction and tell you it's the best thing since sliced bread.
Nate said you're getting a Stockton slap if you don't buy one. All right, I'll take 10.
Right? Hey, 2 Stockton slaps if you don't buy 2. I mean, you guys are kind of right. I don't know if I'm really. I mean, I would be interested in the Jake Paul. Jake Paul's getting ready to fight Anderson Silva in October, in next month, I believe. So that'll be kind of interesting. And then if he fights Nate Diaz, he kind of went through the legend status of Silva and Diaz. If he, in this MMA versus
And
boxing,
we're going to learn a lot about Jake Paul,
yeah.
especially if he fights both of them. We're going to learn a lot about Jake Paul.
Craig, you alluded to his, and you guys both alluded to his fight hard. Is it fight hard? Real fight hard?
Real Fight Inc. is what I saw. Real Fight Inc.
Yep, that's right. Real Fight Inc. Craig, you alluded to that he's starting that promotion. So when he goes and fights those guys, he can do that under his own banner, and that just makes more money for him. Like it's going to be a co-promotion. He ain't going to sign on with another promotion outside the UFC where they dictate things.
No, you saw that last night in the post when he was on the mic with Joe. He said, I'm going to go do some stuff in another sport, then I'll come back and try to win a UFC title, but I will be back. I think we kind of talked about that a few weeks back, like how much money would PFL or Bellator or some of these other promotions throw at Nate. And based off what he says about how much money Dana threw at him, I don't think money's the thing. I think he wants a little bit of freedom for a little bit, kind of like Francis wanted, go do his own thing for a little bit, but he knows the UFC is where it's at, and he knows that the UFC belt's the only one that matters. I don't know if he really makes a run when he does come back, but I mean, you guys have both said that Nate will be in the octagon again, and it will be in the UFC. It won't be in anybody else's cage.
Yeah, Craig, he's kind of always alluded to the UFC's got the best fighters. I mean, what do you give the chances of seeing Nate Diaz back in a UFC octagon? We'll say under a year, 13 months. Let's just say 13 months, a year and a half, maybe.
So you're setting the over under 11.5, basically, is what we're saying. It's going to take him a year less.
Yeah.
To come back,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the over. I think he's gone for more than a year.
Yeah, I think 18 months to 24 months. I think year and a half to 2 years is probably more likely, just because if he is going to fight multiple times away from the UFC, it's going to take a little bit of time in there. Now, the boxing matches won't take as much out of him, but he will need a little bit of time in there.
And I think when Nate comes back, when he comes back to fight in the UFC, it's going to be for the Conor trilogy. And who knows when we're going to see Conor back? And I think Conor's going to get a fight in between then, while Nate's out doing his thing. So I think we're definitely looking at over a year before we see Diaz back.
He has to. I mean, Conor's still in that path to contention. He lost, he got hurt against Poirier, and he took that loss against Poirier, but he's still just 2 wins away. I mean, he's Conor McGregor. If he gets 2 wins, he's fighting for the belt.
He's
so you
one
got
win
to know.
away. It's Conor McGregor.
Hey, Charles Oliveira says he's no wins away. Oliveira says he'll fight him tomorrow. So I mean, really, Conor McGregor, who knows when he's fighting for a belt, but he's going to fight for one.
And then that's probably what Nate means by coming back for a title fight. You know what I mean?
Well, and you got to think too that Nate will take a little bit of time away and kind of make sure the game misses him too. I think when Nate's gone and he kind of looks up, when he comes back in a year and a half, he's going to say the UFC ain't got no gangsters left since I left, so I'm coming back. And you have to give some time to be able to say that. You know what I mean?
Nate will tell you that today.
Well, right, but that's what I'm saying. It's like you can say it today, but there's also 10 dudes that'll line up behind him and say, wait, I'm the gangster. Where if you give it a year, you may look up and say, I told y'all there wasn't no gangsters left.
Yeah, if he does come back, I mean, you kind of alluded to the Conor being it. I think if Conor somehow, I don't see Conor ever getting his title day reigns are over. I believe 100%. I'd put money on that. But I mean, if Conor somehow got the title belt, I mean, Nate, right? Is that the matchup you would want to see in his first fight back in the octagon?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's whether there's a title, whether there's no title. If Connor comes out, and they give him, somebody in the top 5 and he loses that fight and everybody knows and Connor realizes, that he's not going to fight for a belt again, I still think the fight's Nate Diaz. I mean, that the trilogy, I mean, Nate Diaz was the one, that took down the notorious Conor McGregor. And so I feel like that trilogy, no matter what, at some point they're gonna market that and make that happen. I'm kind of with you. I don't think Connor's going to be holding a belt whenever that happens, but we'll see.
There's 0% chance he's holding a belt when it happens, because if Connor's holding a belt, it's a 155 belt, and Nate will never fight for that.
The sad thing is like if they do that trilogy, it'd be almost like it's almost dang near 10 years. Like when was it 2017?
It's not even a trilogy. They're both in whole new careers.
Right? It's all over.
Conor McGregor's on his 3rd comeback since then.
They're going to be flashing back from 2017, and it's going to be hard. Those two fighters are always sell due to the extremers, but even like these younger fans, are they going to know at that point like what happened in this storyline between Nate and Conor and all that? I mean, I know the UFC will flash out some video package and get us all to be like, oh shoot, way back in 2017.
The UFC will remind you. It will let you know. I mean, this fight with Nate Diaz, I mean, they're showing 70% of the hype video is Nate Diaz from 10 years ago or more,
Hey, part of the hype video was him having that dude in the triangle on the tough finale, giving him the birds. That was 75 years ago.
Right. So let's get into the co-main. The co-main kind of went, I think, exactly how we all kind of expected it. Poor Kevin Holland takes the Khamzat fight on a day's notice and just got absolute ragdolled. Now, there's a little controversy because it looked like Khamzat faked touching gloves to me, and he at the presser he said I didn't try to do that, but Kevin Holland went to touch gloves, and then that's when Khamzat shot, and then it was just kind of over after that. Khamzat just went out the gate like a Red Bull. I mean, he wasn't going to be able to do that against Nate Diaz. I 100% believe that, and I think it would have lasted a lot longer with Nate Diaz, but poor Kevin Holland took the fight. What's your kind of thoughts here, Craig, on the co-main?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed because I wanted to see it on the feet for a little bit, because I wanted to see Kevin Holland and Chimaev, kind of give us a little bit of that Chimaev and Burns. I wanted to see Chimaev stand up for a little bit, but I mean, you could tell Chimaev, I mean, he knew the game plan from the moment it started. He knew this guy can't wrestle with me. I'm going to get him onto the ground and I'm going to win the fight. And, I mean, like I said in group last night, just straight ragdolled him the entire fight. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to it. Kevin Holland, like you said, man, poor guy, man. I mean, he took, the hardest opponent here on the card, short notice, and stylistic. I mean, it was a terrible, terrible matchup for him. But yeah, I was kind of sad that we didn't get to see it on the feet a little bit more. Credit to Chimaev. I mean, like you said, I don't think he could have done that with Nate because Nate's too dangerous on the ground. Where Kevin Holland, I just think Chimaev knew going into it, this guy has nothing. He can't compete with me down here, so that's where I'm going to get him. But yeah, I mean, you even heard Nate Diaz say at the end of his press conference, man, like the only difference was my entire camp was wrestling camp. I didn't box at all because you know what Chimaev's bringing. Chimaev's going to try to wrestle with you. And Kevin Holland, I mean, poor guy just didn't stand a chance.
Kenny, I thought we didn't really see what's kind of for Khamzat, like we didn't see any progression. Like this is exactly the fight we thought. We've seen Khamzat just dominate guys in the first round. Like the Burns fight, we got to learn a lot about him, right? Like how can he take a hit? Can he go into the deeper rounds into the, he went to 3 rounds with Gilbert Burns, didn't have to, but this fight just straight emptied the tank in the first round and Kevin Holland just got ragdolled, thrown around like a little child. And I mean, I would have liked to see some progression from Khamzat just to learn more about him and get some of these questions that we had answered from the Burns fight that I don't even know if Diaz would have been able to answer those. Probably a lot more than Kevin Holland was. But what's your kind of thoughts here on the co-main?
It's hard. I mean, definitely no progression, and you're never going to get progression whenever you give Chimaev somebody that can't wrestle. We saw this with the 3 fights that he fought, building up all that hype to try to go out and try to get that Burns fight. And then what we saw in the Burns fight was if he can't take a dude to the ground, he ain't much. That's not a shot at Chimaev. That's just his stand-up. Just ain't much. If he would have stood up with Kevin Holland for 3 rounds, probably wouldn't have made it to the end of those 3 rounds. And I think that if he fought Nate for 5 rounds, he's going to get to the end of them 5 rounds, but he's going to have to earn every single one of them 25 minutes in a way that he didn't really have to against anybody else. So definitely no progression. And it just kind of sucks too, because, you know, I'm a big Fight God guy. I'm big on Fight God justice, and to turn around and have Usman or have Chimaev end up fighting Kevin Holland, which is basically a guaranteed win for him. I mean, even though the odds were cut in half, I felt better about him fighting Kevin Holland than I ever did about him fighting Nate Diaz. And, you know, the odds, like I said, the odds are cut in half. So I hope what's next for Chimaev. Are we on what's next yet?
You can go ahead.
Bro, I hope what's next for Chimaev, and I never thought I would say this my whole entire life. I hope that Dana says, listen, you are not going to fight for the 170 belt yet. There's other fights in front of you, but we got this nice fight at 185 for you. Your name is Paulo Costa. You guys had some issues in the gym. Y'all been talking some shit on Twitter. Go ahead. That's a dude that you can absolutely take down because he's a striker. But can you? Can you actually get in there and take down a dude who's going to weigh 200 pounds on fight night? Let's find out, because I think that's Fight God justice.
Yeah, I mean, Craig, Hamzat kind of said he's sticking right where weight cut is at. He thinks he can make the 170. And
he's in between weights. How are you going to stick on an in between weight? There ain't no catch weight belt comes out. You know what I mean?
And then go 185. And then he's talking probably going to 205. So
he wants to be champion.
Yeah, you alluded to that yesterday. Kind of what's your thoughts here? What's next for Hamzat here, and kind of what's next for Kevin Holland?
So he said that he could have made weight on this fight if the doctors didn't tell him to stop cutting, and tell him that he needed to hydrate and drink water. But I'm kind of with Kenny. If he can't make the weight, man, give him Paulo Costa. That storyline's building a little bit, and I like what I saw out of Paulo last time out. I mean, if he's going to be able to make the weight cut, give him Colby Covington, man. That's the fight that I want to see in that division, because Colby can bang, Colby can wrestle. I feel like Colby is a way better version of Gilbert Burns, and that's gonna be the fight where we'll actually see what Chimaev is. Damn sure don't give him a title shot. Like I said yesterday, man, as good as he looked, I hope he got no bonuses off of that card. But yeah, if he can't make the weight at 185, I love the Paulo Costa fight. I mean, like you said, they're building a little bit of beef, and Paulo's a guy that's had trouble, making weight in the past too. So he's another guy that you're not just going to get in there and ragdoll him the way that he did Kevin Holland. So if he can't make the weight to fight Colby Covington, Paulo Costa would be a good fight.
I think Dana should make him do it. That's my only point in the whole deal. Is like, you've shown at the championship level, a top 5 fight is a championship level. They said before this fight that if you beat Nate Diaz in decisive fashion, that's a title shot, right? So that's a championship level fight that you were 8.5 pounds over for. That's a belt fight. You don't get that extra pound. You're 8.5 pounds overweight for a championship level fight. Just strictly for punishment alone, Dana should say, oh, you want to bounce back and forth? Your next fight's at middleweight. Because what Dana can't have happen is the reason why the weigh-ins have been backstage is because people are almost dying on the scale. If a doctor is telling him 10 pounds away from 170, you can't healthily make this cut, then, bro, you can't cut to 170. Well, and can't have Chimaev go out there and die on a freaking scale trying to make a weight class that he doesn't belong in.
And if you're Dana and you just had to go through this entire, as Dana White called it, this huge shit show because of Chimaev missing weight, are you going to put all your eggs into him making weight to go fight Colby Covington on the next card?
Even more than that. What did we just go through with Oliveira? Oliveira's a true champion, got on the scale and missed weight. Now there's a vacant belt out there. You got a bunch of people saying it's theirs. And are you really going to let Chimaev go out there and maybe beat Leon? And then now we have him miss weight against Usman or something stupid like that? You can't have champs missing weight. Either Usman has to be more, or Chimaev has to be more professional, or Dana's got to say, hey, go fight 2 fights at middleweight, bitch. That's just, no matter what, one of those two things has to happen.
Yeah, that kind of, so the story, since we didn't break it down yesterday, just because there's so much, but because the fight got switched over, and we kind of alluded to it, had Hamzat beat Nate, he was probably going to fight for the title. But had Nate beat Hamzat at the same time, they could have gave him the bag and told him, hey, your next shot could be against Leon. So almost Leon wins in this situation because now there's only one true contender for him to fight, and that's the rematch with Usman. Because had Hamzat beat Nate, they would have made a case for Hamzat, and had Nate beat Hamzat,
the Usman fight was still going to happen first, though. The Usman fight was always going to happen first, but like you said, there's a lot less argument now.
Yeah, there's no argument, right? To me, like it's
Yeah.
Usman. He's Usman and Leon kind of help this fight here in winning, because now it's face to face. Then there's not going to be any talk of Hamzat or Nate in the fighting for that title.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, kind of like you said, that was Usman's fight either way. But if everything went according to plan, Chimaev could sit back and say, "I got winner." You know what I mean? And now I feel like he can't do that. I feel like he's got to go win another fight before that.
Yeah.
He can and he will, but the hype train's kind of lost a little bit of that steam now. Where before, when he did it, there were going to be fans saying, "Hell yeah, let's see that." Now listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that I think like the majority or anything like that else like that. I usually think like the minority, but I do think there's going to be a good number of people like me that say there's no way you can give this dude any sort of a title shot in his next two fights.
No, I like both.
If he beats Colby, okay, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, I like both y'all's decisions. Either Colby and Hamzat, or even Paulo Costa.
Those are whatever division he chooses. Those are the only two fights I feel like he's at the level where he can take.
Yeah, and I mean, how about if he moved to middleweight? We said it last week. Hey, if you're going to fight for the title at middleweight, you got to go through Robert Whitaker. Let him and give him and Rob a fight. I'd rather see him fight Paulo Costa just because of the backstage stuff, and that'll be something that.
And Rob legitimately makes him one fight away from a title. If you beat Rob, you have to fight for the belt. Just like you beat Colby, you have to fight for the belt. You beat Costa, we can still make you fight Rob afterwards. Then you actually had to earn it.
Exactly.
And you know what? I mean, I want to see Chimaev go up there, and I mean, and this is no shot at Rob because Rob's wrestling's all right, but Rob's a stand-up guy. That's where he picks you apart. I want to see Chimaev. He's ragdolling everybody. Go up there, and if like the Paulo Costa's perfect, but if not, like put him in, see how he can wrestle with Vettori, or see how he can just wrestle with some of these bigger guys that wrestle instead of trying to cut weight and ragdoll all these small dudes.
Yeah, no, I'm in on that. That's what he's been doing, is bullying everybody. Go give him a bully.
The thing of him and Vettori is, like, if they were to fight, I think everybody would hate both, so the UFC wouldn't have a face, because you have two heels that nobody likes.
Heels.
Yeah.
Hey, we picked Vettori over Costa. You'll pick one. You'll pick a heel.
Right. But who's going to play the baby face when, Hamzat's led right into this full heel. Full heel.
Hey, credit to him. Credit to him. He's one of the best heels we've had in a long time. He is living up to every single bit of it.
Right. He's playing the part of it, man. He was getting the boos last night.
He was getting the boos. He's talking in the cage about how I'll kill all you MFers. I don't care. Line them up. I'll kill them all. I love weapons. All that weird stuff he was saying. He's playing the heel perfectly. Way better. Honestly, I think better than Conor did. Conor just played the shit talker better, but I think Chimaev is playing a way better just straight heel.
Conor was a heel, but he was a heel that people got behind because of the trash talking, because he was so good at it. It was like a heel, but also like almost like a face. It was like a heel face because he had such a great following, because he had people got behind him, especially when he was like jumping three weights, taking, that anytime, any place fight attitude. That'll get you a lot of fans behind you, because people want to see that. And I'm not saying Hamzat, because we've seen Hamzat kind of do that, but he took like 3 fights in like 5 weeks at one time, and now it's kind of backed away. But Craig, could one of those fights happen? Hamzat took 0 damage against Kevin Holland. Do you think, one of them fights could happen maybe December?
I think Chimaev could be ready for a fight in December for sure. If they can make it happen, if they can get it lined up that quickly. Like you said, this was another just kind of like an early style Chimaev fight where he just goes out there, finishes it quick, and takes 0 damage. So I don't see why he wouldn't be ready to fight in December.
This was Chimaev and Leach all over again, right?
Yeah.
Remember when Chimaev fought Leach and he carried him over to Dana and slammed him down and said, "Give me a new guy"? This was Chimaev and Leach all over again with him in Holland. And we knew that was what it was going to be.
Yeah, you guys alluded to it. Colby Covington, if I'm Colby Covington, I'm probably want Hamzat, right? Like, this is how it works in your favor. Hey, we're fighting at 170. If you don't make weight at 170, you get more money, and then they're going to ask you to either stay on the card and just negotiate like Nate and make more money. So if I'm Colby, I might sign up to fight Hamzat in December at 170.
If I'm Colby, I will take that fight yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I don't care. I don't need a camp. I don't need nothing because I've already wrestled with Usman. I can stand up with anybody. Chimaev's stand up that he showed against Gilbert Burns is not going to beat Colby Covington. And his wrestling, Colby Covington is one of the best wrestlers in the division as well. So I think, hey, give him that fight because that's another heel fight. And I think you're going to see people pick Covington over Chimaev again, just like they did Vittorio over Costa, just like they're going to do with anybody with Chimaev, I think.
Yeah, I think Chimaev is kind of right now he's the ultimate heel. I mean, Colby Covington's definitely a heel, and that's definitely a heel.
Smart, though. He's going to get some big fights off that, man. He's going to get some huge fights talking shit.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the whole deal about like that Colby Covington has kind of come out and say, you know, it saved his career basically whenever he became a heel and started talking all kinds of smack. The UFC was getting ready to let him go, and they told him he was on his last fight, and then he won that fight in Brazil and basically told them they were all like stinky animals and started talking all this shit, threw his MAGA hat on and became this character, saved his career. So, but I think you're right. You know, if those two line up, I think Chimaev is right now. He's the ultimate heel. I think you're going to see a lot of people get behind Colby Covington in that fight.
I will, and I can't stand the dude.
Right. I was going to say. I mean, people will be behind Colby. I mean,
I think Colby's an absolute psycho, and I would pick him over Chimaev 100 times because I can't stand Chimaev that much. Just the way everything's gone down the last week, man. I'm gonna tell you right now, if he gets a fight lined up against Colby or Costa, I bet he pulls out of it. I bet he pulls out of it.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. When this Chimaev train started taking off, I was like hopping on it, and I was kind of getting behind this guy. Yeah. And then this past week, man, my fandom, I have lost a lot of fandom for Chimaev, and I have gained a ton for Leach. I feel like Leach is one of my dudes now after everything that played out this week, man. That's the guy you can get behind. It's kind of crazy how it can change all on one card, but yeah, I lost a lot for Chimaev.
Same. So what's next for Kevin Holland? I mean, does the UFC a favor here? I feel like to return the favor, they got to give Kevin Holland a favorable fight, but a ranked fight. What about him and Wonder Boy? I mean,
that's the one. That's the only fight there is. That's the only fight there is. Wonder Boy already said he wants Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland to fight Wonder Boy. Two strikers. They both want to fight a striker. Wonder Boy deserves a striker. That's the only fight. I got it written down on my notes. It's the only one in bold.
Craig, you got any other thoughts for Kevin Holland? I'm big mouth here. Did the UFC a favor? I mean, Wonder Boy.
That's a great fight. Him and Wonder Boy is a great fight. I definitely think you can't. I mean, Holland can't lose any stock off of what we saw yesterday, even as bad as it looked. Like you said, he did UFC a favor, so I feel like they gotta give him a favor. They gotta give him a ranked opponent in his next match. So, you know, if he can come back out and redeem himself, it means something. And like you said, Wonder Boy's been out here saying no, like he's been turning fights down. I want a striker, man. Kevin Holland's that guy. Like, put them two together. And Kevin Holland didn't take a ton of damage in that fight. I mean, he got tapped out. I don't know if he took, you know, any damage to that shoulder and collarbone area, but if not, I mean, he's another guy that could turn around and fight, you know, fairly quick.
We've seen him do it before. He fought 5 times a year ago. You know, he'll fight quick. He don't care.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Craig, you alluded to the Leach. I mean, Leach's bad week continued. We kind of talked about him getting the fresh suit for the press conference, learned English for the press conference. Press conference gets canceled. The only guy to fight the guy that's weighed 10 pounds over him the night before the fight. So it was probably 20 pounds higher than him last night in the fight. And then, I mean, I'll say it, man. I mean, me and Kenny both picked D-Rob, but I thought the Leach got screwed. I had Leach winning that fight. I had it, you know, it was a close technical fight. You could tell both guys didn't train for each other. They didn't, you know, were just really kind of sparring it out. But I thought the Leach won. And somehow, some way, Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles gave it to the Leach. I'm gonna let you talk here, Craig, because you were on the Leach bandwagon, the Leach train.
Yeah, man, I thought Leach won the fight all the way until they said that he didn't. You know, it was a close fight. It was a technical fight, and like you said, you could tell that these two hadn't really trained for each other because there was a lot of. I mean, almost the whole fight was kind of like a feeling out period. It felt like, but I thought we saw some good things from Leach, and just the fact, man, the whole time you're watching that fight, you're looking at them like they weighed in 10 pounds different, but they're 30 pounds different. It looked like in the octagon, and yeah, man, I mean, you know, Rodriguez had more strikes, more significant strikes, not by much. It was very close. Leach had the only takedown in the fight. It was a close fight, and I felt like Leach got robbed. And with Leach being robbed means I got robbed, because if Leach wins that fight, that belt's coming back to me. So now, I don't know, man. That one stung a little bit, I guess, man. I felt like Leach, just everything we've seen from him all week, he's taken it all in stride. He did the company favors, and then the judges don't send no favor back his way at the end.
Kitty, I mean, that has to be the worst week in MMA history for a single fighter. What happened to the Leach all week? Do you maybe just run this back with him and D-Rod, like give him a full fight camp and just let them run it back? I mean, the Leach is I hope the Leach, he's like 14, I think, in the welterweight division. I don't want him to say, I don't think he should lose his ranking. I mean, if he lost his ranking, Jesus, dude, I mean,
He fought a middleweight.
yeah.
I mean, he fought a middleweight.
Yeah, I mean, do you maybe just run that back? Because I mean, him and D-Rod at the right weight, and give both guys a fair camp, or do you got somebody else in mind for the Leach?
I don't run it back just because stylistically, I don't think it's ever going to be a good fight for either one of them. I think even if they had a full camp and they fought again, you would kind of see a lot of what we saw anyway, just because what you saw was them being cautious of what the other was good at, and what the other is good at is going to stay that way. The fight I have in mind for Lee is Neil Magny. They're both coming off a loss now. They're both in that 10 to 15 range. We see that a lot, and I always like to pick them fights where it's give me two guys in the 10 to 15 range coming off a loss. One of you guys is going to stay, one of you guys is going to go. And so I like the Leach and Neil Magny fight. For D-Rod, I don't really count that win over Leach as a win. I mean, number one, it was kind of a sketchy situation anyway. And then when you add in all the weight situations and everything else that went along with it, but I do think that you give him somebody ranked above him. I like him to go in there and fight Rachmanov. I think where you saw Leach kind of a little bit scared to get inside, he did get that takedown. I don't think Rachmanov's going to be scared at all. The time frame kind of lines up. Rachmanov fought, I think, a month and a half ago. So he'll definitely be good by the end of the year. I think that D-Rod will be good by the end of the year as well. He's coming off a win. He didn't take no damage. So I like Lee and Magny as two top 15 guys that are coming off losses, and Rachmanov and Rod as two top 15 guys coming off wins.
They just lost, or he lost to Neil Magny back in March 7th, 2020. So
Who's
I mean,
that?
The Leach.
Oh yeah. So that was the whole point, was avenge that loss to stay in the rankings. That was
okay.
That's why I wanted to set that fight up.
I got you. I was like, I know they already fought. That's
what, no, they did.
Craig, I mean, you got somebody here for the Leach and D-Rod. Like, what's what's next for both of these guys? Hey, you're muted.
Be professional.
Gosh.
I'm sorry. Rookie mistake. So for me, I'm on this Leach bandwagon, and the way, I mean, he drew the short straw to make all this work for Dana. I feel like, kind of like Kevin Holland, I feel like Dana owes the Leach a little something here. Next month, we've got that Sean Brady and Bilal Muhammad fight. Give Leach the loser of it. I'd like to see Leach, still, I'd like to see him fight somebody above him. And then, I mean, the Neil Magny fight, that's not a bad fight either. They're right there in the same range, but I also wouldn't mind, if D-Rose is going to fight in this division, let him fight Neil Magny. And to kind of get a ranked fighter that's had a camp for him. But yeah, man, to me, maybe it's just because my heart's with the Leach now. I want to see the Leach get a ranked opponent above him. Neil Magny's right in that range. Next to him, I feel like throw the Leach a bone, man. You had him draw the short straw. Like I said, that Sean Brady Bilal Muhammad fight is next month, so that timeline could almost match up to get them penciled in, early next year.
Yeah, I like. I was thinking Vincent Luque for the Leach. I mean, 10, and that's a good jump for the Leach. Luque is coming off 2 losses in a row. So I'd like to see that fight. Give the Leach a chance to maybe crack the top 10 against a guy like Luque, and you're doing him a huge favor for everything he just went through. This probably the worst week for an individual in UFC history.
You're doing Luque a favor.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a good fight, I think. Luque is going to try to get you to the ground, but I mean, Leach is okay on the ground, but for D-Rod, I'm kind of with you guys. Just give him somebody in that bottom 15. Him and Neil Magny wouldn't be a good, wouldn't be a bad fight.
Neil Magny, unorthodox striker, would be a little different for D-Rod to go in there and have to fight him.
Michael Pierre is right there at 15. He'll get ate up by Shavkat. Maybe I'm just so high. I'm very high on Shavkat. You mentioned, was that who you wanted the Leach to fight or D-Rod?
No, D-Rod, man. I mean,
he'll get destroyed by Shavkat, I believe.
Hey,
destroyed.
That's the top 10, bro. That's the 170 top 10. That's where you want to be. That's who you got to fight.
Yeah.
You can either fight Rakhmonov on your next fight, or you can fight Rakhmonov in your fight after that if you win. But either way, you got Rakhmonov coming up because both you guys is about to be top 10 dudes that are making a run.
Yeah, I would like him, but like I said, I'd like him and Neil Magny or somebody like that for D-Rod. Let him break into the bottom of the 15 here before he gets into that top 10.
I feel like you're doing him too many favors giving him Neil Magny.
Let's get into the third fight, the chick fight here. These lovely ladies, my girl Adana. I mean, that was a heck of a fight. Almost, I thought outside of the main event was probably the fight on the card, just due to I had Adana winning winning the first round, Chasson the second round, and then it was close in the third where it looked like Chasson, when she took Adana down, it's like, oh, that's going to win her. But then out of nowhere, up kick to the liver sent Chasson to reset. I mean, curled up in the fetal position, crying with her thumb in her mouth, crying for mama. That's what happened. I'd never seen anything like that, Craig. I thought Chasson was hurt, like had pulled a muscle, but a direct liver shot just reset her back to factory settings. What was kind of your thoughts there?
Yeah, man. Like you said, that was a good fight, man. I had it Aldana in the first round, Chasson in the second round, and it was, like you said, close in the third round. She got her to the ground, and then it was like Moreno and Kai Car France, man. It happened so quick, and then she just crumbled down into the fetal position. I was like, yeah, what happened? Did she pull a muscle? She pull a rib? I mean, something. You didn't really see what happened. I didn't see the kick until they showed it on replay, and that heel got her, man. But yeah, it was like you said, the reset button, dude. I thought she was coming in for top position and going to take control of the round, and next thing you know, she's crumbled over in the fetal position, and they don't even know, is she hurt? Was it fight related? Is the fight over? There was a lot of confusion there for a second. I don't think anybody really knew what was going on.
Yeah, Kitty, I didn't know what was going on. You picked Chasson to win. It looked like she was about to win. And then, I mean, like I said, she was curled up in a ball like this, just, give her a blanket and she probably would have went to sleep. Like, I had never seen anything quite like that from an up kick. It's usually up kicks to the face, but never to the kidney. And I mean, wow.
The way you talk about fighters when they lose, one of these times you're gonna get knock on your door and you are gonna get knocked the F out. That's the only way this is going to end. At some point, Macy Chasson's about to knock on your door, kick you right in the liver, and then walk away and say, here's your blanket.
Hey.
No, it's unfortunate, man. Those liver kicks is just part of the game, though. I mean, you've seen him become more of a, 10 years ago, it was like, man, can you believe that they accidentally hit him in the liver? Now you see people throwing them spinning heel kicks. They're aiming right for the liver. The body kicks are going for the liver. They know that's a reset button. If I can get it, Gon got tied 2 or 3 times in the liver. And he buckled over and he was almost done, but Ty's just a different animal and he kept swinging. But 9 times out of 10, man, them liver kicks, that's it. You hit the full reset, your whole body curls up, and that's all there is to it. We've seen it happen a bunch now. Unfortunate, but at the end of the day, that belt would have been mine if it wasn't for this fight. So here we are.
So what do you got next here for both these fighters?
For Macy, man, I think that the biggest thing for her is going to be, is she going to have to move up or is she going to be able to make that 135? Because, she missed weight for this fight. She's a taller fighter. She's a bigger girl. If she stays there, I'd like to see her fight Aspen Ladd. Aldana was kind of a top 5 opponent. Ladd's going to be a top 7 opponent. I think that kind of works out for both of them. I think that Chasson's definitely earned that top 10 spot and to keep fighting top 10 opponents. Like you said, without that liver kick, she maybe wins that fight by decision. She probably is up 2-1 after that, especially because the way that that fight looked like it was going before those up kicks came. So I think the Aspen Ladd's probably the best fight there. Aldana's a little harder. You know that usually you, if you're number 4 and you win a fight, then you're probably going to fight for a belt. Problem is when Nunez and Pena are there, you know you're probably not. She lost to Holly Holm already. So I kind of think you give her Rocky Pennington there at number 5 and kind of let her – this will be the number 1 contender fight. One of you two is going to fight for the next one.
They both fought her already too. She fought her already too. Craig, I kind of like Kenny's alluding to. I mean, that's at Aldana. There's not much ahead of her. I mean, maybe run it with Juliana Pena, and that can be Juliana Pena's, comeback fight after losing the title. You got somebody different these two ladies?
That's where I was gonna go with this one. Because Aldana, she lost to Holly Holm. If I'm not mistaken, she beat Vieira, who's at 2, and they've kind of got the triangle of beating each other up there going on. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I think if you're not going to run Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunez right back, which I don't think they will, then I think Juliana Pena and Aldana there, I guess, for the number 1 contender fight. I would like to see that one. Kenny said Aspen Ladd for Chai Son. I like that fight. Aspen Ladd and McCann are fighting a fight night here coming up like a week or 2.
Yeah.
So maybe the loser of that gets Chai Son. Both of them coming off of losses, and the winner of that's going to probably go up there and fight somebody in the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, Aldana did beat she KO'd Vieira, Caitlin Vieira, who was up there. Did lose to Raquel Pennington. That was a close split decision, obviously. I mean, that was in 2019. Maybe she wants.
And they both lost to Holm, right?
Yeah.
Aldana and Rocky both lost to Holm. That's why I like them fighting at 4 and 5, just because Holm's there at 3.
Yeah, Holly Holm's still there, but I don't know if Holly Holm is coming back. I mean,
who knows what weight class she's even in?
Yeah. Like I said, I wouldn't mind her and Juliana Pena kind of fighting for the number 1 title contender there. Give Pena, if she beats her, maybe then at that point, maybe you can make a case for run it back with her and Amanda again, just because, hey, she's kind of cleaned up that division as well. But
if I'm Juliana Pena, I'm on Twitter right now saying Nunez ain't fighting nobody but me. I finished her. She couldn't finish me. I'm getting that trilogy fight.
Yeah, it's just a tough sell because of how that second fight looked. Like she didn't win, any rounds of that fight.
But look, hey, Nunez ain't win any rounds of the first fight either, bro.
I think sometimes, I mean, the UFC likes to sit on that trilogy, man, and wait until they almost need to pull that card. You know what I mean?
Your Pena loses another one, you never get that card. The trilogy fight never happens.
I would give it to. I would like her and Aldana. Both got hands. Both can do some things on the ground as well. But
big fight. They're gonna brawl.
Yeah, it would be a good brawling fight. So let's get into the opener here. Johnny Walker, man, I was worried about Johnny early, but then was able to turn it around. Was able to choke. Was able to choke out Cutabella. What's kind of next here for Johnny, Kenny? Is it back to somebody in the higher rankings? He's been middling around that bottom 15 range for a while. This is his first. I was surprised his first win in 3 years.
Well, that's because he ran into a lot of dudes. He fought Thiago Santos in that time. He fought maybe Krylov, I think it was in that time. He fought a lot of dudes that he took L's to in that time. So that's kind of one of those just kind of is what it is situations. Once you build some hype, not necessarily the same level as Tony, but he ended up almost with the same road as Tony as far as he had to fight a bunch of dudes. It was all in the mix as far as that next up-and-comer type. So it is a little surprising when you hear that just because he's fought in so many fights where they were promoted a lot. You know the guys' names. But to not win in 3 years is wild. Big win last night. I think the fight I like best for Johnny Walker is Paul Craig next. Paul Craig's coming off that loss where we all thought, hey, he's going to go out there and put on a show and show that he belongs. And then he showed that the only thing he belongs with is a bunch of question marks. So I think that you take a guy like Johnny Walker, I don't really think he can go much higher than 10 just because he's shown that he can't really handle that level. He's got whooped by basically everybody he's fought in that top 10 range. So I think that if you go ahead and give him Paul Craig, it's like, hey, this is going to be the gatekeeper. Paul Craig's kind of shown he can probably be that top 10 gatekeeper type. Give him the chance to break into that top 10. I like him fighting Paul Craig next.
Yeah, I kind of like that too. Craig, what's your thoughts here on Mr. Johnny Walker?
Yeah, so that's the exact fight that I had written down too, was Paul Craig. To me, that makes sense. Johnny Walker has been a guy, he was a young up and comer. Then he got into the rankings, started fighting some guys in the top 10. and they just kind of proved you're not ready for this level yet. You know what I mean? Knocked him back down. I think the Cutelaba fight was the fight to see if he belonged in the rankings, and he showed that he did. So you got to give him, a ranked opponent here next. And I think Paul Craig's the perfect one coming off of the loss. Paul Craig's almost in the same territory where it was like, this guy's got the potential to be a top 5 guy, but then now he's not getting past the top 10 guys. So now we need to see really where you belong. So I feel like Paul Craig, Johnny Walker, both kind of in the same territory there. So that fight makes sense.
Yeah,
I do worry about that fight for Johnny Walker though.
It would be a tough fight. I was just getting ready to say, like, Johnny Walker wants to show that he's well-rounded. Well, Paul Craig, go fight Paul Craig and see how good your wrestling is, and see how good you are on top, because we know
Paul Craig is not well-rounded. He's not scared to tell you he's not well-rounded, and he's still going to try to beat you with it.
Yeah, he'll tell you exactly. He'll lay on his back and let you get at him, and then try to figure out.
He's willing to lose a fight laying on his back just to try to bait you into coming into him.
Exactly. So, Johnny, go fight and go see how good you are. And fighting Paul Craig. I think we're all three on that. Paul Craig versus Johnny Walker fight. Boys, let's preview next week's main event here. A banger in the bantamweight division. Corey Sandhagen makes his return. It's almost been a year since we've seen Corey Sandhagen fighting another killer, Song Yongdong. I mean, Craig, we've seen Corey Sandhagen fight the best of this bantamweight division, won some of those fights, lost some of those fights. Last time we saw him, he took a short notice fight against Peter Yan. But Song Yongdong's an up-and-comer who's trying to break into that top 5 here. Who do you like for next week's main event?
Yeah, like you said, this is going to be a good fight. Sandhagen has been out a little bit. Usually I'll lean, towards away from guys that have, that ring rust is kind of real. But to me, Corey Sandhagen is kind of the top 5 gatekeeper in that division. And I don't know if Song Yadong is a top 5 guy in that division. I don't know if he's quite at that level yet. So pick wise, I'm going Corey Sandhagen in this fight. Like I said, man, he's kind of that top 5 gatekeeper, and I just don't know. Song's got a lot of talent. He's a young and up and comer, but I just don't know if he's quite there yet. I'm gonna pick Sandhagen to kind of close the gate on him right now.
Kitty, Song Yongdong, I think I got a bright future ahead of him, but I also love Corey Sandhagen as well. The Sandman is, he lost a close fight, lost his last 2 fights, lost a close fight to Dillashaw, and then turned around and fought for the belt against Peter Yan, the interim belt. This is going to be a tough fight. I think this is going to be a good fight, though. I'm excited for this fight. I would have loved to see it on a pay-per-view, but I'll definitely take it for 5 rounds. This is Song's first 5-round fight. Lot to prove here for Song in his first main event.
Yeah, we're going to find out a lot about Song. This is easily the toughest test of his career. We're going to find out a lot about Corey as well. Corey's kind of almost in that Dan Hooker range where he's the long, rangy striker that made a lot of noise on the way up, took a couple losses. Dan Hooker went from 4 to 11 really quick. And I think Corey's kind of almost in that realm where he loses a really close one to TJ, loses to Peter, and then you turn around, it's like, how is he going to come back from 2 losses? If he loses a Song, it might be the end of his path to contention for Corey. I'm definitely going to pick Corey to win this fight. I say definitely not because I think he wins by a large margin. I just think that when you're taking those guys that are coming from outside the rankings and they get a true top 5 test, that true top 5 test usually wins the first round. And it usually takes that second guy that they go and fight where they get to regroup and kind of say, okay, there's levels to this shit. I need to upgrade my levels before I try to go at it again. So I'm going to take Corey just because he knows he's got to have a little more urgency under him than Song. Song's got a lot of career left where Corey's, as far as his contention, like he's kind of already used up a lot of his. And so I think he knows, like, if he's going to make another run at the belt, he's going to have to win this one, the next one, and then hopefully he can get another title shot.
Yeah, Corey's about 2, like you kind of said, 2 fights away. He has fought the who's who of the bantamweight division, especially those top tier guys.
He lost, though. He's fought them all, but he's lost.
It's a huge fight for Corey because, like you said, if you lose this fight, then you are in Dan Hooker territory because now you're falling down to becoming maybe the top 10 gatekeeper. But coming off 2 straight losses, those guys are 1 and 2 right now. So, he's in – this is a huge fight for him.
It's one of them fights where he's ranked number 5 right now, I think. And if he loses, he ends up 9. And if he wins, he can end up 3. It's just one of them deals where if he wins, then it's like, okay, so TJ really is just that good, and Jan really is just that good, and Corey's right there with him. But if he loses, it's like, oh, they just exposed Corey. That's what happened.
Yeah,
Corey got a highlight reel knockout over Frankie Edgar and ended up with a title shot over it.
He lost to Aljo back in beginning in 2020. Aljo just slammed him down. It was all over. Just lights out real quick for him. So he's fought the top 3 guys that the former champ, the champ, and the guy who's fighting for the belt. 3 of his last 5 fights. So it's not like he's taking bums here. This is I think this is the biggest test. Obviously, we said for a song. And it's going to be a test for Corey. I'm excited for this fight. Unfortunately, I think it's at the stupid Apex. So, the 20 fans will be able to enjoy it in the Apex. Yeah, dang it. How do you put that? We know what? We didn't got the time. You know what? It's Sunday morning. I'm not even, you know what? Nate Diaz won. I'm just going to keep my blood pressure low here.
Hey, vibes.
Boys, so let's kind of put a bow on the 279 here before we get out of here. What was your kind of thoughts here? Was this fight card better than what was originally predicted, even with all the craziness? Kind of give me a grade here as far as this fight card is concerned.
I'll give you a grade, C-. I mean, the fights we wanted to see. Did the fights that end up getting made, were they better for the card? Were they better stylistically? Maybe, but I didn't want to see them more. No matter what, I wanted to see Chimaev fight Nate Diaz, not anybody else. That's just – I think that Tony probably took a much easier loss against Nate than he would have against Leach. So, I mean, I guess that kind of worked out too. But at the end of the day, you're trying to sell a UFC 279 with a card that changed literally, 13 hours before the thing was supposed to go. So it's hard to give it a very high grade. I think some of the fights maybe ended up a little better than people kind of thought they would. But you got what'd you say, 8 fighters miss weight?
Yeah.
The top 3 cards fights on the card all got rearranged. You can't give that card a high grade. As far as what I took away from it, nothing. Is from the main card, to be completely honest. It's kind of everything we already knew, everything we knew going into it. It's all still just chalk. What I took away from it was from the prelims. I don't know if you guys watched the prelims, but Jonathan Almeida might be the baddest dude in the world that's 205 pounds. And he's kind of in between weight classes. He fought at 220 yesterday to catch weight. And he said he wants to stay at heavyweight, but he's a very, very small heavyweight. If he makes that cut down to 205, that's a dude that can make a huge run here in the next year.
Craig, you got any what's kind of your grade here on UFC 279?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of with Kenny. I think you can I'm going to give it a C+. Just because of the ending. To me, it was kind of like one of those movies that the movie wasn't really that great, but it was a happy ending, and I loved the way it ended because Nate came out on top. So at the end of the day, that's kind of what I wanted to see. I definitely would have loved to see Chimaev get tested a little bit more on the ground, and Nate Diaz for sure would have done that. I mean, the Leach D-Row fight, I mean, could have been more exciting. The Chimaev Holland fight definitely could have been more exciting. But I was happy that we got Nate and Tony at the end, and Nate came out on top. But yeah, I mean, like you said, whenever this many guys miss weight and this many fights get rearranged, you can't give it too high of a grade. But with us getting Nate and Tony at the end, and Nate going out on top, I mean, I'll even give it a B-. I'll go to B-, but that's as high as you can go.
Yeah, Craig, you alluded to like a movie had a nice little intro into the movie. The middle kind of sucked, and then we got the big happy ending at the end. With Nate Diaz winning, gets to walk off and kind of flip, like we talked all week, flipping the birds to Dana. Now it would have been great if he fought Hamzat and won. I would have loved to see that press conference more and that post-fight interview more, just because they sent this so-called killer to send in to kill the killer. And
if Nate would have beat Chimaev and they handed him the mic, he had to say, like, "I'm not surprised, MFers," right? Like, that's what you got to say at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Barnett had a nice post interview fight. I mean, him and Jake Collier, that was a nice little fun fight. The card was pretty good. Kenny alluded to the other nice prelim fight. I kind of give it a B. That's as the card itself and just the week in itself. If I grade the whole week, I love it. Right? Like to me, it's like an A. I love the madness, the crazy. You guys know me. I'm into the drama, the storylines. It's part of why I love the UFC. Like we talked about it yesterday, Craig. This is the only sport where you train for a whole guy, and then the last 2 minutes less than 24 hours. Oh, by the way, you got to fight this guy because this happened, and now you're fighting this guy. Will you do that? Like, it's the only sport that this happens in. That could never happen in tennis or anything else like that. It would just be like, hey, we're not doing it today. But that's not
The only other thing Dana could have done was just had all three of the top fights like mystery, and the fans don't know until they start walking out, and then it's 100% WWE.
Hey, remember when they used to go to Vegas and WWE and they'd spin the wheel and see what match it was? That's exactly what they could have done with those three fights. They just spin the wheel. This guy's fighting this guy, and it's gonna be a casket match. That's exactly what could have been. Last night. I'm gonna give it a C minus C, just because the week was absolutely insane. It's gonna be a memorable week. I think a short media time. I know we just kind of go on and on, but it's one of them fight weeks where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember UFC 279 because of all the madness that happened, and it also being Nate Diaz's last fight.
No, same. I mean, all that chaos, it definitely made it a little better as far as the dramatics to it, but I'm not the WWE guy like you are. I just want to see the best dudes fight the best dudes. I don't need a bunch of fake made up storylines over some half nonsense. And then Chimaev's camp coming out saying that he kicked Holland in the chest, and then you see the video and that's not even close to what happened. And I don't really necessarily need all that. If you're going to give me all that, then just still give me the best dudes fighting the best dudes, and then try to find some way to add that on top of it.
I think all of that kind of helped this card specifically, just because the card was a little bit weak.
Yeah, well, if Dana made a good card to begin with, he didn't need all this drama in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, I just think, I think as a whole, we maybe got screwed a little bit as fans on the card, but at the end of the day, like I said, man, the ending of the movie being Nate and Tony with Nate going on top, to me was a lot better than seeing Nate take a beating out there from Chimaev and having to watch Chimaev, send Nate out that way, man. It was just nice to see Nate and Tony go out, two old vets, tons of respect for each other out there. And to me, the ending made it better.
We alluded to it, boys. You guys alluded to it. And I alluded at the top of the show that the fight gods looked out for Nate Diaz. And the fight gods looked out for me. You two jabronis tried to make me put this belt on the line yesterday. And I said no. But I still, anytime, any place like that night, great Nate Diaz, I put it on the line. I won. That's right. The fight fans, the fight gods, sticking with your boy Bodkins. This is 2 pay-per-view in a row. I walk away with a perfect record. That's right. Stand still, baby. Me and Nate Diaz.
No justice. Leach had to get screwed so you could cheat to get that belt.
Hey,
because you were scared to put it on the line. I'm not getting down with it.
That's how the fight gods work, baby. They knew, hey, Bodkins is getting screwed over. We're not going to let Bodkins get screwed over anymore. He's been getting screwed by these 2 jabronis, and now he gets to be and still champ. Next pay-per-view, UFC 280. I'm still walking away with the pick'em belt, baby.
Hey, listen up. Do not compare yourself to Nate Diaz. Nobody had to threaten Nate Diaz to take that fight. Me and Craig had to threaten to come over to your house and take that belt ourselves for you to put it on the line.
Anytime, any place, just like Nate.
Just as long as you can pay the judges off to start screwing people over, huh?
Are you going to try to find a way? You're going to try to find a way to pull out a 280 somehow.
Hey, that's what great champs do. Hey, you fight what's Chael Sonnen say? Hey, you pick the lowest guy on the card and the highest payday, baby. Any way I can get it. All right, boys. This kind of puts a little bow tie on our episode of post show of UFC 279. Kenny, you got any last final thoughts before we get up out of here?
Nah, man, just ready to see what UFC kind of does with the potential fights that can be lined up. I'm kind of ready to see some of them kind of shake out. We've seen Poirier and Chandler shake out and get finalized. I'm really ready to kind of see the way the end of the year is going to shape up here.
Craig, any last and final thoughts?
No, not really, boys. Next pay-per-view is a banger. So next time we're doing a pre-show, post-show, man, it's going to be a good one.
And next, thanks, Craig. It is going to be a banger. There was no pick'ems as far as ESPN because the card got all shifted. I looked yesterday. We'll be back with that as long as the no craziness madness happens on the next pay-per-view. We'll create a pick'em for all our fans to join us and try to beat us as well as the reigning defending champ Bodkins continues to carry this belt and make the correct picks, baby. Speaking of making picks, we'll be back tonight. The three of us will be back tonight, 8:30 Central, breaking down NFL Week 1. Please join us in the YouTube comment section. We'll be talking all the games today, what happened on Thursday. Kenny and Craig talking a little fantasy. So we're excited to be bringing that 8:30 Central time zone tonight. Make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. Share, be a friend, share with a friend. Tell a friend. Also, Let's Talk Sports has got you covered all day, folks, for football. They have a pregame show, which I'll be on today, 10 o'clock Central time zone. They're covering you from every game at half times. We're going to have a different lineup for every game. There's going to be different people talking different things. So hit the subscribe button over there at Let's Talk Sports. Also, I got to shout out my girl who made the shirt, the Yellow Alley. Hold on, now I've screwed up the name.
There's a shocker.
Yellow Alley Design Co. If you want a great Bodkin shirt, head over to the Yellow Alley Design Co. on Etsy or Facebook. My girl will hook you up with one. But you see me rocking the Bodkin shirt. If you want wear my big ugly face around, and I don't think too many people do. I don't even like wearing this big ugly face, but that big ugly face is better than this big ugly face. But check out Yellow Alley Design Co. If you want to order a Bodkin shirt, please do that. Help my girl out. Boys, it's been a great pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. I'll catch you both back here at 8:30 Central time zone, breaking down NFL Week 1. And we'll be back next Sunday, folks, for UFC, talking our head kicks and haymakers, Song versus Sandhagen. I can't wait till next Sunday. I can't wait for that fight. Boys, it's been a great show. Kenny, hit the outro, baby.